All right, I didn't mess anything up. We are live for something that we have not had a chance to do in a little while, and I'm very excited to bring it back to the channel. We have our friend Alan Sanchez Capers from Panopticon Gaming on to not Panopticon. We're the All Seeing Eye now.
The
The
all-seeing
All
eye.
Seeing
There's been
Eye.
rebrand.
Yeah, a little bit of rebranding, but the All Seeing Eye is cool. So yeah,
Thank you.
um, yeah. So we've had a lot of new followers over on YouTube for a lot of the tabletop gaming and narrative stuff that we've been doing, and this is something else we do. We talk about RPGs and we play RPGs because all different types of games are cool and fun, and I want to get them out there to everybody. I'm sorry that my camera, for some reason, is very blurry tonight. I have a new one on OBS. I have a new one arriving tomorrow, which will hopefully be in for our every other Wednesday Call of Cthulhu campaign, where you're going to get to see some people try to break into an insane asylum, and they've been finding lots of puzzles which I haven't put into the campaign. So you get to see them make up some of their own puzzles to figure out. And then every Friday we've been playing Icewind Dale: The Rime of the Frost Maiden, and they are currently halfway through the Dwerger Mega Dungeon. So hopefully, yeah, they keep pushing. They've been doing a good job so far. We'll see. They've started spending resources that they haven't had to yet, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's gonna get heavy.
That's gonna it's gonna get out of hand real fast. But other than that, welcome all the new people to the channel.
Yeah,
Welcome
welcome,
Alan
guys.
back to the channel. If you'd like to see his GMing in action, we're going to talk about like what he does towards the end of the session. But you can go and check out our Christmas one shot that we did, where we played
Yeah.
Chronicles of Darkness, and that was a lot of fun. But let's go ahead and roll the intro music, and we'll get into talking about RPGs. All right, so we went like we've been talking about like a lot of stuff like just like over Messenger. Like our Messenger list is pretty extensive at this point about the random stuff that we've been talking about for RPGs. But something that happened like in the RPG community, like not talking about like everybody leaving D&D Beyond at the same time that happened like on Monday, but Cody from Taking 20, which is a massive YouTube channel,
Oh
he
yeah.
yeah he did that video about leaving Pathfinder second edition for a whole bunch of reasons and going to fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons, and that whole thing that happened. So I put out a video with my thoughts on that and the states of D&D, and we're going to keep this video super positive. So instead, we're going to talk about the systems that you and I are super excited about running that are not
Definitely,
D&D
definitely.
fifth edition. So why don't you kick it off? What systems have gotten you super excited recently?
Uh, Especially recently, I've gotten really heavy into Son of Oak Games, City of Mist. It's a really beautiful game that's powered by the apocalypse. So games like Monsters of the Week, Blades in the Dark, Masks, those are all powered by the apocalypse, and it is such a unique game. There's no physical, or sorry, there's no like numerical stats. So like you don't have HP, you don't have strength, you have none of that. What it is you get power tags, and that describes your character. That describes everything that they do. You add those to your rolls, and if you get 7 to 9, you kind of do it, but there's a consequence. And if you get 10, you do it really well and you get some bonuses. But 6 to 1 or 6 to 2, you're kind of SOL.
Yeah, so it's all D10s, right? Still for
It's
yeah,
actually 2d6,
2d6. Okay, cool, cool.
and
Yeah, that's interesting.
it's yeah, it's a highly simply, it's a very simple system. It's like a lot of the players that I have at my tables right now, they're new players. They've never
Hmm.
played the game, or they're just getting into it. And it really is easy to learn. Really, all you need is the starter book and somebody to run it.
Yeah, no, I love systems like that. Like we'll just go like one system at a time here. So like we've been
Yeah.
looking at Zweihander. We just played like a one shot that
Uh,
off camera to get comfortable with. And like what you're saying about simple systems, like I think there's a lot that can be gained from playing a much simpler system. Like Zweihander is a very simple system that seems very crunchy before you get into it. But then like my brother was playing through it, he's like, "Oh, I figured this out. Everything's a D100, and then when like I do something good, it's a D6 to see how much I killed you by." And I'm like,
yeah.
"Yeah, that's basically it." And I really like skill based systems in
Yeah.
that regard, where like instead of like in D&D where you're rolling a D20 and then you're adding a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff to it, and there's like a spreadsheet
Yeah.
of like
It becomes
proficiencies.
yeah, it literally becomes math instead
Mm-hmm.
of
It does.
instead of actual role playing.
Right, which is why I completely skipped 4th edition. Like, 4th
Yeah.
edition D&D, it was like, oh, so this is an MMO with rotations, and I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't talk about fourth.
We don't talk about 4th edition. We pretend 4th edition D&D never happened. But no, like, systems like Call of Cthulhu and, like, Mithras and Zweihander, where it's like, you roll a D100, and, like, what's your skill? All right, so you have a 70 in stealth, so you have a chance, you've got to roll somewhere between 1 and 70 to, like, sneak, and then you did a good job. Or, like, fighting, you roll a D100, and then the enemy's going to roll a D100, and he's going to try to parry. Your attack went through. Now roll a D6, and that's how much damage you did, and good job.
Yeah.
There's not all this other stuff stacked on top of it.
Yeah, and it actually kind of reminds me of what was that? Chronicles of Darkness.
Yeah, Chronicles of Darkness.
What you guys ran in that one shot. I loved how not really simple the system is, because it is kind of tough to navigate. But if you exclude all the lore and you just write your own games using the system, it's actually really easy.
Yeah, no, Chronicles of Darkness was great. Like, and if you watch the one shot, like, I love my brother, but he's like a guy who, like, he'll be playing a game and he'll have, like, no idea what's happening, and he'll just ask somebody at the table, like, what do I need to roll? But then he was like, oh, okay, so this is the way this works. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And, like, it's not something that's difficult to pick up on, because that's, like, all D10s. I think that's the only thing we rolled was D10s.
Yeah,
so
it's all D10s, and it's just like every dot is a number of D10s you have to roll.
And you know, it's really cool for systems like that in particular. Like in Chronicles of Darkness, you are rolling a lot of dice, but I've really started to enjoy systems where you're not rolling a ton of different dice, because it really keeps expectations kind of where they should be. This is something, like, we're not going to spend too much time with wargaming. This is something I picked up from playing a lot of war games on the channel recently. Like, you play Warhammer, and you have a unit of 10 Terminators, and I need to grab a bucket of D6s and just pour them onto the table. Meanwhile, we're playing Frostgrave, and we're both like, all right, we're both going to roll a D20 and see which one of us rolls better. And then that's that. Because it keeps, like, the expectations grounded, because you're not, like, going to have these massive swings in dice.
Well, so fun Warhammer stories are to diverge here.
No, that's what we do.
I brought out this kit bashed manta that I made, because there's no way I'm going to afford an actual manta.
No, that thing is stupid.
Hey, Tau.
No, I like Tau. I'm just saying that kit is like the size of the wall where I have my computer.
Yeah, no, it's huge, and for like $1,500, you get a full army with it that fits in there. So, like, I'm cool with that, but I'm not gonna spend that much.
Nope.
I actually brought out this Kit Bash Manta on this, like, janky looking flight stand, and I had this set up in a game against Tyranids, and I brought it in, and I was rolling, I think, 36 D6.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Against like 2 targets.
Yep.
And that was just burst cannons on one side.
Yeah, no, it gets crazy. It's like Rogues in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, where it's like, all right, I hit. Let me get the bucket of D6s.
Yeah. That's Rogues in general.
It is Rogues in general. Yeah, 3.5.
3.5. I think one of my rogues is got like 10d6 on the sneak damage, and then they also have their unarmed strike for being a monk.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. No, like Rogue Monk. Oh God, I forgot about that from 3.5. I've put that behind me. But like in 5th edition, like Rogue Fighter, where it's like, all right, I shot it. I'm gonna action surge and shoot it again. Look at all the damage.
So I helped my rogue monk build her character, and it's a monk level 15, or sorry, monk level 16, level 2 rogue. But I found the ascetic rogue feat, which makes your rogue level stack.
Right. Yeah. God. 3.5. It was a different time back then. But yeah, well, this kind of brings me, like, I wasn't going to talk about this yet, but like, let's talk about balance, because we're talking, like, so obviously for like war games, like balance, because you need to like there's a goal in a board game and the goal is to win. So there
Yeah.
needs to be some semblance of both people show up to the table with like an equal chance of winning. But in RPGs, that kind of like goes out the window in terms of like not entirely like we don't need a balanced system, but in terms of well nobody's trying to win. So does a game need to be balanced? Like I have
Well,
thoughts on this, but I'm curious about yours.
I mean, this kind of harks back to that last conversation we had about the GM playing a
Mm-hmm.
different game than the
Yes.
players. So, like, yeah, your players are going to be super overpowered. That's why you, as the GM, go, "Hey, I'm going to throw all these other things to wear you down a bit, and then I'm going to throw this big one at you to try and kill you."
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Like expect getting players to expend. That's what I'm kind of doing with this dungeon right now. Like seeing where I can get people to expend resources that they didn't need to spend in that fight. Like the Blood Hunter last session uses once per game uses once per game bonus damage ability. Once per rest bonus damage ability, and then the fight ended the next round, and he was like, "Oh man, I should not
No.
have done that." I thought things were a lot worse than they actually were. Yeah, definitely getting people to expend resources, and like I think I've been doing a lot of thinking about this, and I think there are things that inherently unbalance a system, and it's okay if it unbalances like in the direction of the party. If like everything is unbalanced
Hmm.
and it's the entire party that's unbalanced, that's okay because now all of our monsters can be unbalanced and all of the
Yeah.
other stuff that we're throwing at them can be unbalanced. But if it's unbalanced in the direction of a single player, that's when things start to get
Yeah,
iffy. Like,
that's
yeah,
Yeah, it's like the one, I hate to say it, but the Chad Paladin that
mm-hmm.
likes to be highly overpowered and everybody else is kind of lacking, so he's the one doing all the work. It kind of just kills the momentum.
It absolutely does. No, and like my friend Dan and I had a conversation about this, and we're like, okay, we're not going to play paladins and we're not going to play warlocks for the next like 5 campaigns, and we're both going to check each other for this. No paladins, no warlocks. They stay at home. We make other classes. And there are certain things that I think like there are things that just unbalance the game. Like I like Tasha's Cauldron of Everything a lot, but reading through Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, everybody has a pet now. Like they're just Pokemon running around in the world that everybody gets to have. And it's not like just the ranger has it. It's not like just the druid has it. No, the wizard has a pet. The sorcerer has a pet. The warlock has
Got
pets.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody has a pet, and like that is so terrible to keep track of. Not only like balance wise, but just like running a fight. It's like you go,
Yeah.
and now your pet goes, and now the other pet goes from across the room. Now the familiar goes, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, no, it gets really overpowered, and that's why, like, for me, I actually have only allowed one or two pets in the
Mm-hmm.
party. Like, I
Yeah.
kind of keep a limit at it, and that's because this goes to the Candlewick mystery or the
Mm.
Candlekeep mystery
Yes,
stuff.
I wanted to talk about that too.
Yeah, good segue, I guess.
Yeah.
Because my wife has a mobility assist dog, and
Mm-hmm.
so we actually included him in the game as part of her character. So
That's really cool.
her character Cupcake has an emotional assist warg,
Nice.
and yeah, so he's this big timber warg that's just super cuddly and has like he'll come in and in the middle of combat drop a ball on an enemy's foot just so you can try and distract him to play. He's not a combative character, but he's there just to be fun.
Right. No,
And
like that's really cool.
yeah, and I don't know if you heard my talk on accessibility in gaming.
Yeah, which is a
The
really
last
good
time.
talk for anybody watching. Like you should go check that. I'll link it down below. It's really good.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a matter of trying to be inclusive, and so that's like we wanted the dog
Yeah.
in there. I'm
Exactly.
trying to work him into this one right now.
No, that's great. No, and I definitely think like obviously like stuff like that I think is like flavor above everything else. Like the golden rule if something's not fun, either if something is fun or isn't fun, like find a way to do it or not do it because right, it's a role playing game. It's not like we're going to a tournament and
Yeah.
we're showing up and we're like, well, like all the rules have to be exactly the same. No, if it's fun for your group, you should do it, and if it's not fun, you should not do it.
Dude.
Exactly.
I mean, to quote Video Game High School, it's all about the game.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and there's so much to talk about there, but specifically like with regards, so like while we're on the subject of balance, before we move on to Candlekeep Mysteries, like something I've really picked up on in Zweihander. This isn't like going to be a thing that every group, like my group, isn't going to enjoy doing this for every game we play for the rest of forever. But it's
Yeah.
everything is random. Like you can choose to be a human, or you get to go to one of the tables and roll for race, and then you roll for class, you roll for social class, you roll for profession, because it's not like
Yeah.
a class based system in D&D where it's going to be like you're a fighter. It's like, no, you're a ranger. Like my brother rolled ranger, and he's like, oh cool, I'm going to get to go kill stuff, and I'm like, no, that's your background. Your background is ranger, and then he goes and he rolls on the profession table, and he's like, oh, I'm a pilgrim.
So he's just a forward scout with barely
exactly. He's like, oh, I'm a pilgrim, and he's like, if I rolled like one less, I would have been slayer. But the thing about Zweihander is that because everything is random, there's like no way to break the game. Because like my friend Dan rolls up this Skurzak, which is like basically like copyright free Skaven Ratman, and he rolls up this Ratman, and he's like, okay, cool. I'm going to be like an agility based character because I've got like all this dex and none of this strength. And he's like, oh, no, I'm a barbarian.
You gotta love that.
Yeah.
Like it really does bring up really good opportunities, not just for role playing, but it creates better times.
It does, for sure. And like if you're going into the expectation of like, we're not going to break the system, we're just going to have fun, it leads to something very different.
Yeah. And that actually kind of leads into another game that I was researching for the podcast called Torg.
Yes, Torg.
Torg Eternity was the other one that my dad had suggested to me. And holy crap, that system is so in depth.
Yeah.
But all probability. That's exactly what it is. It's all probability, and I love it.
No, stuff like that I think is fantastic. So like things I look for like when I'm looking for other systems is like, for one thing, just like game design from the perspective like what we were talking about before with dice, because like it's gonna like rolling too many dice at some point will like ruin somebody's day. Like that's not fun.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like like small things like the probability stuff. So like what are you looking for like in systems that is like, oh, this is something I'm gonna like want to prep for?
Yeah. Well, I feel like because I'm a dice gobbo. Who isn't?
Yeah, I mean we all are.
Yeah, I mean I've got a friend who's got like 50 some sets, and that's a little much for me. But after starting up City of Mist, I realized I don't have a matching set of 2d6.
Oh, really?
Like I've got the small ones from when I was playing Warhammer, but I don't have like a nice matching set of 2d6. And I'm just like, now I gotta find them or make them.
Yeah, no, like for tabletop, like I noticed like when I was playing Zona Alpha, like I don't have matching D10s. Like that's just not something I have, and it looks it's like really weird rolling them on the camera and be like, oh, none of those dice match. That's not right.
Well, when I got into Chronicles of Darkness, I actually went over to my local Games by James, and I just went into their dice bin and just started picking out all the ones that look the same.
Yeah.
I got like 10 of them. So I've got more or less a matching set of D10s, but I never did that for D6s because I didn't think I was actually going to need it.
Yeah, no, definitely, like, yeah, dice are important. Like, I can't wait to go back to playing real games with real dice because that's what I'm missing right now in my life.
I've kind of just been like, okay, yeah, I'll use the dice roller, but I'm gonna just roll my own.
Yeah, 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 definitely. So like for systems, like for Cities of Mist, like what was it about Cities of Mist that you were like, this is like something I want to prep for?
Okay, yeah. So City of Mist, what first initially got me about City of Mist was the artwork. I am a huge noir fan. I'm a huge Frank Miller fan. Sin City was one of my favorite graphic novels.
Yeah.
And so like when I first looked at the art and saw that it was neo-noir, I was all over it. And then I started watching a Let's Play of, I believe it was Saving Throw. They did a 10 episode thing on Saving Throw for that, and I was immediately hooked. The system is super easy, it's super chill, and it took me a little while to get through the PHB, and I ended up buying the whole book set in one. I was like the first week of seeing this. I was like, yeah, nope, gotta have it. And so I bought all that, and I immediately started writing Breaking Neon, which is
Yeah,
my
the campaign.
series.
Yeah.
And I realized also halfway through into writing that me as the master of ceremonies doesn't have to roll anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the players do all the rolling. They tell you what's going on, and you are essentially a referee as the master of ceremonies.
Interesting.
However, because of how they roll and the way things work in the story, because it's a very cinematic
Hmm.
story.
You're right.
Um, hmm?
No, no, I'm processing
oh,
how that was going to work in my head
oh,
because that's very new to
for
me.
some reason, yeah, for some reason it sounded like you said you're bright. I was like, wait,
No,
my
no,
light's
you're good.
green.
You're good.
um, no, so like the way that the rolls work, if you start rolling really terribly, the master of ceremonies gives you the hard choice. For example, I had a game last weekend with my beta team, and my beta team, they were at a point where they had to, they saw this guy who had just killed somebody. He was contemplating suicide, and all of a sudden there's a red dot on his head. And so the cop character,
Hmm.
who it was one of the pre-mades named Inkiru, um, said he was gonna jump in the way of the bullet. He was gonna save this man's life. He was gonna do it. And I said, "All right, cool, take the risk." And he failed the roll. He got a
Ooh.
6, even with everything that. Or sorry, he had a I think it was a 6. So I said, "You have a choice. You can save this man's life and take the bullet yourself, or you can fail and let him die." And so that like those are the hard choices that you get to give players when they fail rolls, or like, yeah, you were sneaking around, but all of a sudden some guy was just, he's back there having a cigarette. He's just a random worker, and he sees you sneaking around with this dead body. Doesn't seem like he's important right now, but eventually it's going to be.
Yeah, no, that's actually really interesting because like there are like as far as systems go, like Dungeons and Dragons, I still think like whenever I do a video about Dungeons and Dragons and I have a critique of it, I'm always coming at this from a point of view that it's Dungeons and Dragons. Like
Yeah.
D&D at the end of the day, I think is still going back to historical war games and is about kicking down doors and killing monsters because like that's what D&D is about. So there has to be
Oh yeah.
that crunchy system to where we have rules for kicking down doors and killing monsters, but like that a system where it's like super narrative based is really interesting.
Oh
You're
yeah.
coming at that from like the other perspective.
Yeah, it's very narrative based. It's incredibly cinematic. They actually like some of the moves. There are 8 core moves. You got stuff like sneak around, convince, go toe to toe, hit them with all you got. And then there's ones like stop holding back, where you're unleashing your power in a new, never before seen way, or the montage, which is the downtime,
Hmm.
and they help you recover or investigate more without having to go through the little minutia. And at the end of the game, they do something called geek out over the credits. Yeah, and so it's a
Okay.
very cinematic game. It really it's player driven, so that you're not just sitting there being told what's going on. Everybody drives the story.
I love that. So how does combat work in that game? When
So yeah, there is no turn system.
okay,
It's whoever wants to go can go, and it's the MC's job to sort of make sure that not one person is hugging the spotlight, as it's
cool.
called. Um, and without an HP system, well, how do you do it? It's actually done by statuses. So tiers 1 through 4, you're okay to hurting. There's good statuses and bad statuses,
Yeah.
obviously. Tier 5 on a negative status is considered knocked out, and then tier 6 you're dead or worse.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
Huh.
because there are immortal characters. So what happens when you die? When you hit tier 6, well, you get transformed into something.
Oh, that's really cool. Because
Yeah,
I actually think that's fantastic. Because I know it's easy to get bored of a character sometimes in
yeah,
campaigns. So like you have
and
and like so like the campaign can keep going, like you have like these
Yeah.
mini end goals for characters.
And what really caught me about the uniqueness of the system was actually character development. Aside from being super easy to do character creation,
Hmm.
the leveling system is the more you apply a weakness to your theme, because you get 4 themes to
Okay.
choose from for your character. The more you apply a weakness to it, the more stuff you're able to get on it. But the more you start neglecting it, the likelihood is that you'll lose it. And so like there's 2 types of themes. There's mythos, which is like your magical powers or your god powers, whatever it is that you got.
Hmm.
And then your logos, which is your day-to-day mundane stuff. When you lose a mythos power, you become more human. And so it becomes logos. And when you lose your logos, you start giving into your godlike powers. And
Okay.
it so like throughout the course of the game, depending on how you roll and how things go, you could become more powerful or you can start becoming more human.
Okay.
And so there becomes a balance of, well, my character doesn't want this power, but the power is really enticing.
Mm. Yeah, that's like I love role play that happens like that, where like you're forced like so like in Zweihander or something I found really interesting. It's like you might want to or might not want to do something, but you're awarded XP for role playing to either. So like alignment in Zweihander is kind of fluid. So like you have a chaos side and you have an order side,
Yeah.
kind of like in Chronicles of Darkness. And when you're on your
Yeah.
chaos side, you're more inclined to act in a certain way. When you're on your order side, you're more inclined to act in a certain way. And
Yeah.
there's experience points that are assigned at the end of sessions for role playing more to one side than to the other side. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
choices like that are really cool.
Yeah, and this system really allows you to not just work on your character for yourself, but you as a group.
Hmm.
You can actually like there is a theme specifically for the crew that can be upgraded, so you can
Okay.
get upgrades to one of the themes or one of the power tags on that. Like one of the upgrades is dynamite, which is when you roll a 12 plus, there's added bonuses to it.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And same thing with like your other themes. One of the themes that I have on, for example, my character Wednesday, he's the Rift of Odin, obviously by his name Wednesday.
Yeah.
He's a private eye that carries a big hand cannon. And the one of the one of the themes that I gave him was relic, and the hand cannon is his relic. It's Gungnir, which
Nice.
is Odin's spear.
Yeah.
And so I gave him a benefit. Like when I start playing, once I get enough attention on that theme, I'm giving him the ultimate sacrifice, or the ultimate unlock, which is when I make a stop holding back move, I can get an immediate 10 without having to roll, but I have to lose a lot of myself to do it.
Oh, okay.
And so there's like less of a chance of me failing, but more of a chance that I'm going to be less human.
That's really interesting. No,
Yeah.
I think it like that sounds like a I can't wait to play this now. Because that I really want I really want to play this now. A game that I wanted to try to find a way to run a one because it's a one shot based system. So a game that
Mm.
I wanted to try to find a way to run a one shot was a game called Ten Candles. And in Ten
Oh
Candles,
yeah,
yeah,
I heard
ten
about that.
yeah, it's really cool. So like it's called Ten Candles because when you set up at the table, there are literally
10
10
candles.
tea candles which you light and then you dim all the other lighting, and during character creation like it's all a one shot, characters are made at the table, so you get a flaw and you get a boon. I forget the exact title, so that's the general idea. And
Yeah.
like the person to the right of you determines your flaw and the person to the left of you determines your boon, and
Oh, that's awesome.
it gets passed up the table. So and then the person sitting to the left and the right of the GM are going to get a boon and the flaw from the dungeon master
Oh,
because there's nobody else sitting there. And then like
yeah.
character creation starts with one person at the top of the table writing down a character idea and passing it all the way around to the other side of the table, and the other side of the table starts doing the same thing until everybody has a character that's just been kind of randomly made. Of course, like my brother's like, well, what's the point? Because like I like making characters. I'm like, well, don't worry, your character's not going to survive till the end of the session because it's tragic horror, not survival horror. It's
Yeah.
assumed that everybody dies by the end of it. But over the course of the game, there's these things called the others. So basically, I should describe the setting. So the setting is the sun has died 10 days ago, and this is the remnants of society kind of seeing how long they can make it. And there's these things that have appeared called the others, and the others just come and they kill people, and we don't know what the others are. We don't know what the others want. We don't know what the others are doing. And at the end, there's 10 scenes, and after every scene, you put out one of the candles at the table, and every player at the table says an absolute fact about something that's going to happen in the next scene.
Mm.
And and then the final fact that is recited is, and we're all still alive until the final candle goes out. And that's the final scene where the dungeon master says the way the final scene ends. But I think like that element, like what you're saying in Cities of Mist, where you're like incorporating the players' feelings about stuff, like what the players want to see happen in a cinematic sort of way, is something that's really healthy for games.
Yeah, and actually, so one of the other things that City of Mist does really well is, me as the MC, I don't have to actually start the game. That's actually left to the players.
Oh, nice. That's
Yeah.
actually a major relief.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I have to be there and run it.
Right,
but,
of course.
The game actually starts with a monologue from one of the players.
Cool.
Like, traditional noir style, where like you're going like, yeah, this is my day, everything's shit, but you know what, I'm here, I'm alive, it's cool, so I'm gonna go eat my pancakes and probably go downtown to go beat up some thugs.
Nice. No, stuff like that's fantastic. We were playing the one shot in this Vihander book, and my brother decided, his pilgrim was going to be a super religious pilgrim on an actual pilgrimage around different towns, telling people about the God Emperor and how great the God Emperor was. And he gets to this one town, and he's going to perform a wedding because that's what the one shot's based off of. And I'm like, all right, you're running this wedding. Tell us what a wedding of the God Emperor is actually like. And he's like, wait, I get to like decide things.
Yeah.
And then there's like there was a moment of him like processing that. Then he like goes off over like the different traditions that are practiced, and like he starts having fun with it. And I think allotting time for that is important when running games.
Yeah, and it really does bring player interaction up. It makes it less of I'm talking at you and we're playing a game.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be. That's the point of an RPG. It's collaborative.
Yeah, and like this, I think it was this weekend or last weekend or the weekend before last. We had a really good sort of interaction between the character who was the embodiment of Dorian Gray, and it's really cool because your characters are the embodiments of something. So a deity, a fictional character, a literary hero, or an actual hero, an idea, an animal, a place, a thing. It doesn't matter what it is. My brother decided to make a character who is 3 pigs hiding in a trench coat.
Oh, yes, the classic. 3 something small hiding in a trench coat.
Yeah, and so that's his character, is these 3 pigs. He calls them his oinkers. And so he can send them out, and the power tag for that is me, myself, and I. And unfortunately, they have a weakness where they can only squeal. So the weakness is pigs gonna squeal. And so like if somebody tries to interact with this oinker, they're not going to get anything other than
nice.
Right? Is just this, yeah. And so like you get these really weird interactions, but we had Dorian Gray and Michael. Sorry, what the hell's his name? Derek Wilder was Dorian Gray.
Okay.
And so Professor Wilder walked in with Michael, who's the 3 pigs, and they're in Mad Hatter's tea room, essentially. And Wilder's in the office trying to buy some drugs, and he's like, getting these guys to be friendly. They realize that he's going to turn on them, and so they try and shoot him. Well, portrait Dorian Gray can't die because of the portrait. Well,
right.
His portrait's a cell phone.
Oh.
So anytime there's damage, it shows it as a selfie.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So he's standing there with this gaping,
Wound?
socket
Yeah.
wound from a bullet hole to the head, and he goes, "All right, you guys done yet?" And he's just like, he's looking at his phone. He's like, "Yeah, no, no, that's cool." Click. Okay. See, all better, and he's back to normal. The interaction was Derek Waller had decided to stop holding back and used his power to convince both the March Hare and the Mad Hatter to open fire on each other. And it was this massive gunfight between the two of them in this small office with Dorian Gray standing there like, what's his name from Boondock Saints, where he's on the floor going,
Oh
"It
yeah, yeah,
was
yeah.
a firefight." Yeah, that was pretty much what happened.
No, I'm just sitting here thinking about like who I want to have my character draw power from, because like the options are unlimited.
They're kind of, yeah, they're kind of limitless. It really is a matter of like not just who you want to be, but what you want what your mythos your mythoi
Hmm.
is what it's called. What you It's really what you want your mythoi to have your character find out, because that's the hardest part of character
Right.
creation. Is you actually, for your mythos powers, you actually have a question you have to answer, and that's the question of your mythos. So
Interesting.
for Wednesday, was the sacrifice worthy enough?
Okay. Okay.
Because he's missing an eye.
Right.
He's missing his left eye, and he's got this big hand cannon.
Hmm.
And the other part of his power is he has bird's eye view, because
Okay.
he can see everywhere around the city through the eyes of birds, as if it were Hunan and Munin.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but his daily life is he's a detective and, or sorry, former police officer, and he is a pistol marksman.
It makes sense with the canon.
Yeah, and the actual title, the title that I gave for the pistol marksmanship was Better Than Annie Oakley, because in his backstory, his wife was the Rift of Annie Oakley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so yeah, you get to kind of like tie in all these things. One of the NPCs that I had in my game that everybody like almost overlooked for a moment
Hmm.
until they realized who it was a man in a yellow pinstripe suit wearing sunglasses.
I'm not even.
And
Yeah.
he's he gives off this air of madness to him.
Yellow pinstripe suit, wearing sunglasses. Why do I feel like this is yellow pin? Is it Haster?
It is.
Okay.
And I named him Hector.
Nice.
He's
Nice.
this Cuban socialite by the name of Hector. And when he takes off his sunglasses, you actually see the yellow sigil.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Ooh, ooh, Cthulhu
Um,
characters. Ooh, I can
yeah.
make all the Mythos minis that I painted.
I've actually seen I've seen some really cool builds that somebody had done for not just Cthulhu, but Lovecraft
Hmm.
himself. There was one for Nyarlathotep
Hmm.
that was actually really cool. Um, one of the ones off of Saving Throw that actually was really hysterical was they did the riffs of Target, Fry's Electronics, Amoeba Music, and Pier One.
Oh, nice.
And the theme for the game was the attack of the wall Martians.
That's that's amazing.
So
No,
like this game
yeah.
isn't just like neo noir.
Hmm.
It can be pretty much any
Anything.
setting. It can be superhero. It just depends on how you want to do it.
No, I think that's fantastic. So speaking of any setting, and prepping, I'm actually wasn't expecting to spend the whole time talking about Cities of Mist, but I'm super glad we did spend the whole most of the time talking about Cities of Mist, because I'm all kinds of excited about it right now. So like talking about setting and making these types of characters, how do you approach this from a GM prep point of view? Because I know you said you wrote Breaking Neon, and
Yep.
you had all this like stuff planned out. But these characters are like super all over the map. Like these can be you can literally like right you can
Yeah.
literally wind up being anyone. This is something I ran into when prepping for Spyhander. It's like I have these campaign ideas, like I can set it like during like a fantasy version of the War of the Roses, or a fantasy version of like the Fall of Rome, or they can go be Vikings. But like until the characters are made, sometimes I worry personally about making something
Yeah.
and then being like, well, this I'm not sure if this fits.
Yeah, so for me, like I had a little harder time writing for Dungeons and Dragons that I found
Really
because yeah, it's weird to me because I ended up having to write the story based on everybody's characters.
interesting.
I had to write the game to fit the characters. This one, on the other hand, is playing to my strength. I know noir. I
Right.
know I know how to do gritty noir. I know how to do modern. That is like my wheelhouse. I can do that all day long. And so with that background and the fact that, I've been watching murder mysteries with my wife for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And I, being the forever DM that I am, I have a penchant for just creating random characters for no
Who
reason.
doesn't?
I
Like
found a way.
the
Yeah,
backlog on my phone of characters is crazy.
yeah, and so I ended up putting most of those to use by
Oh, nice.
throwing them in this game. And the way I got around having these random characters is I ignored the characters and made a series of plot hooks that would, people can try and conform to or they can try and get at. And it's the same way in the actual written book is it's designed so that none of the characters have to have anything in common or they can, and if they do, they have benefits from it. So the more they have in common, the better it is for them later on.
Right.
Um, for example, the one shots that I ran this past weekend are all there was one case out of my game, um, and nobody had anything in common. The only thing that they had in common that was that they were being hired to do this job.
Mm-hmm.
And the theme, the crew theme that I gave them was an offer you can't refuse. I literally, like, one player was getting $15,000 a month for the rest of their lives. That was their character's goal.
Okay.
And yeah, so like you can do that, or you can give it like, hey, this is the sort of opening that's going on, um, and here's the sort of ideas that are laid out. You guys choose one to work with, and that's how you bring your characters together. And that's kind of how I wrote it in.
I think no, I think all of that is fantastic, especially considering like this is something else I've been thinking about a lot. Because this past week has like been the week I've been catching up on my RPG stuff, and like all the ideas have just been coming out this week. And thinking about like kind of like the figureheads in the D&D community right now, like you got Matt Mercer and you got Matt Colville. Like I'm a massive Matt Colville fan because he very much comes from the same dungeon crawling school of play that I grew
like
up on. Colville's fantastic. But like, so looking at the differences between their two games, Matt Colville's game is kind of like, this is the world, and you just exist in the world, and the things that were happening in the world have nothing to do with you because you're just a bunch of dudes, and you just exist. Meanwhile, Matt Mercer's game is very much so like, no, everything important in the world revolves around these characters, and they're going to happen with the characters. And I don't think there's anything wrong with either of that. I just think like I feel like a lot of people feel like we need to like the game has to be like about the characters. Meanwhile, it can almost be more rewarding sometimes just to have it be about the world.
Yeah, and a lot of like, especially with my D&D game,
Mm-hmm.
I like, yes, the game is written around the characters, but the world around them moves on without them, and they kind of have to catch up at some point with the rest of the world to find out what's going on, and they do. That helps drive that story.
It absolutely does. No, and I think it also that really is going to come back to your players because my players are like, as far as backstories go, like I always ask people like, give me some backstory before the campaign starts. Like it doesn't need to be an essay, but I would like to know about your character, that we made during session 0. And some of my players are like, all right, 5 sentences. 1 sentence is where I came from. 1 sentence is my family. 1 sentence is what I was doing before I got here. And then just some other interesting facts. And that's perfectly fine. But then I have other players who was like, all right, here's 5 pages about everything I've done from the time I was born, the name of my pre-K teacher's name, and all of my childhood friends, and all the conflicts that have arisen. And they want to be, like, they want their character to be more involved with the plot of the story. and that's
Yeah.
okay. But that'll be more like an aside than
Yeah.
the main thing that
And
happens.
I've tried to make it a point that every character in my D&D game has had some sort of plot hook
Hmm.
that they have an arc. And so far I've done uh 3 out of 4
Hmm.
for the
Yeah.
heroes. So like right now, our cleric has lost her faith. She was abandoned by her god, and she's now found a new one by defeating a. She defeated Orcus
Hmm.
in a one shot, by the way, using banishments. I
Isn't
was
that the way it
so mad.
always goes? Like, oh, so I've just started doing this thing where we're playing with demons. That somebody on the other side of the world banishes them back, so the fight
Yeah.
keeps going.
I was so mad. I literally like she just walked in. They're like, "Okay, we're gonna use this fireball arrow." Oh, apparently he's immune to fire. Okay, never mind. That's not gonna work. Well, the monk gets thrown into the air to do this like super awesome plunging strike
Hmm.
with everything she's got, and then the cleric walks in, and goes, "Oh hey, I forgot I had that banished."
But for like, I actually did a video on why I think the Sibriac is such a fantastic bad guy, but it also got my cleric, like that fight, because they were losing it. That fight got them to realize, the cleric realized how powerful Banish was when fighting demons. He's like, oh, look, gone.
Yeah. And so like I actually like everybody went, "Are you kidding? Are you serious? She just one shot the oh my god." And the monk was disappointed for a
Hmm.
moment. They're like, "I'm super happy that you one shot it, but my like super mega cannonball kick, I wanted to do
My
that."
super mega cannonball kick. I love it.
'Cause they
Yeah.
the monk and the ranger have this thing. They're gonna try and do the fastball special. Because it's a
Yeah.
gnome or sorry halfling monk and a satyr ranger
Oh my
scout.
god.
Yeah, and so they want to do the fastball special, and she was set up for the fastball special, but she couldn't get it off because of the fact that the cleric came in and said
Banished.
smite.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. There's not much you can do about that.
Really
It's
nothing you can
just
do
a
about that.
thing. Um,
it's
yeah.
it's okay. I ended up getting some really good stuff out of it because, yeah, he got banished. Actually, he resisted the banishment because he had been on the material plane long enough,
Okay.
but he still ended up getting one shotted because of the secondary effect in 3.5. He ended up dropping the Wand of Orcus, which is a highly cursed
Yeah.
weapon.
Oh my god, that magic item almost ended one of my campaigns.
Well, uh, the Dwerger fighter decided to pick it up using like a bag and just
Hmm.
like not touched it. And he was like, "Oh yeah, we could totally sell this." So he's carrying this thing around and he's bleeding from the
Oh my
eyes.
god.
He's just like he's slowly dying because of the corruption. And everybody's like, "Why did you bring that along? It's probably worth something."
So when it popped up in my campaign, so in back in Planescape, the Wand of
Mm,
Oricus used to make an appearance in Limbo, and not in Limbo, Pandemonium, is
yeah.
where it was banished to. And so that's what I did for my world's lore, and they had to go to Pandemonium because that's in the Rod of the Seven Parts. That's where the final piece of the Rod of the Seven Parts is. It's guarded by an ancient demon who's been imprisoned down there for all of time. And the fighter in the party, why is it always the fighter? The fighter sees this gigantic jade skull, and he's like, "Huh, that's probably important." And the rest of the party, like the barbarian, was even like, "Leave it, just leave it, don't touch it." He's like, "No, I'm just gonna go look." It's like, "Hey, there's a stick in here." Because he's a human without dark vision. So he's like, what does the stick do? Picks up the stick. Oh, this stick has a skull on it. So he gets a vision of Oricus. And Oricus is like, I can bring your dead brother back. All you need to do is return this wand to me. And the fighter's like, that sounds like a good deal. And I'm like, so, like, you are aware, like, because in 5e, I don't remember if it works this way in 3.5, but, like, you can sense if things are magical and if they're cursed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you are 100% aware you're an Eldritch Knight. You're good with magic. This is bad. Like, this is bad juju all around. There's nothing good about this. He's like, no, I take the stick. So he takes the stick and like, all right, you need a roll on the, God, but it's like the detriments for magic items table 3
Yeah.
times. And the first one he rolls is that he needs to kill the person with the same alignment as him in the party, who's the same alignment, the cleric. So he just immediately turns around and starts wailing on the cleric of the party.
I love it.
Yeah, so that was a blast. Magic
Yeah,
items, fun times.
so in 5 is the wand of Orcus an actual wand?
Yeah, it has like
Okay.
it gives you like actual abilities to like cast certain spells a set number of times, like a wand.
Okay. Because in 5, it's actually a two-handed axiotic mace.
Yeah, it's both. So like you can whack people with it. It's a +3. It's a +3 mace with improved critical and a couple of other abilities. But like you can also just cast Finger of Death through it, or
I believe
Power Word Kill.
in 3-5 it's like a +7 mace that if you are not within one step of its alignment, you start taking like 10d6 damage.
Yeah, it doesn't deal damage in 5e. And so in 5e, you roll 3 times on like the major detrimental table, like 4 times on the minor detrimental table, and like there's a whole host of bad things, like you become vulnerable to all damage types, or it's just all bad.
I found it. The Wand of Orcus wields. The weapon that Orcus wields functions as a +6 unholy anarchic heavy mace. If the wand touches any non-outsider or any outsider with less than 15 hit dice, the target must succeed a DC 25 Fortitude save or be instantly slain. This is necrotic death.
Nice.
The wand also confers a +5 deflection bonus to AC.
Yeah, no, it's not quite that powerful in 5e. But this is another, talking about writing and the Wand of Orcus, like magic items as motivation when you're writing is, I think, it's probably the easiest. But like for new GMs, like magic items are your go-to if you need to get people to do things.
Yeah, and for even not just new GMs but experienced GMs, creating magic items to cater to a character's personality is really dangerous.
Oh, it's really dangerous.
I love doing it though.
Yeah.
I mean, the deck of many things, I ended up adding cards to it.
Ooh, oh, that's me. No, that's a great idea for how to use the deck of many things, because like most players out there probably know what's in it, and then you pull this card and you're like, that's not in the script.
Yeah, I added the 7 deadly sins.
Nice.
And the character in question, Petra, she is a bit psychotic, and she ended up drawing greed multiple times, which is 1d3 cards additional to what you just drew.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And she has arcane obsession, so she has to do things with arcana. So I think she drew in one day, she drew 14 cards, and it almost ended the world. Yeah.
Okay. Yikes. That's.
But it was a great bit of role play because she literally she was losing and gaining everything all at once. It was causing all this chaos. The world was starting to sort of tear apart, and then the party literally had to wrench it from her and feed the deck to Tiamat. They summoned Tiamat with a wish.
No spoilers for Icewind Dale, but like I'm hoping somebody uses the Scroll of Tarrasque summoning, because I feel like that's too big of an opportunity to miss up on, which will lead to like a 5-way fight. But that's a different story. No, but I think magic items are probably one of like the best things to like even just base campaigns around. Like my most successful campaign, the Rod of the Seven Parts, was based around finding those 7 rod shards, and it was great.
Well, like this campaign is sort of based around not just the deck of many things, but a tome that I created. It was called the Tome of Tarantharil. I can't remember what the hell I named it, but it's this cursed tome that's got the mental imprint of a mage who was all about mind control.
Okay.
And so the dwarf in question, who also has the deck of many things, has been working with this guy, and she's been slowly becoming crazier.
Mm.
She also now has the ability to permanently transfer her mind into somebody else's body.
Ooh, that's ooh.
Yeah. And what's more tempting than immortality? Godhood, which
Yeah,
is what I've tempted her with.
that's no, like that stuff is all really cool, and like getting party dynamics like work that, but like in Icewind Dale, which we've been running on the channel, what was almost kind of an issue at first was one of the there's this cult in Icewind Dale in one of the towns of Levicitus, which in my campaign they think it's Levicitus. It's actually far worse. Um, and there, and one of the members, he puts on a Chardalyn necklace, and Chardalyn causes long term insanity, and then he goes back and he like joins the cult. And it causes a divide, and then he like starts acting weird in the party, and the party's like, I don't know about this. Like, we're not really big. Like the Blood Hunter, who's basically like an edgy paladin, was like, I don't like cults. Cults are bad.
Yeah.
We should go purge them. And then the cult leader pulls aside this one party member, and she was like, "All right, listen, stop acting like an idiot. If you let them know that you're in the cult, it's not going to get you anywhere. You need to keep your head down, be quiet, act like a good boy. Don't upset the Blood Hunter. He's very kill hungry, and you're going to go to this place, and we're going to wake up what we think to be Levicitus."
Oh, that's no. See that works out
Yeah.
great. I love that. Like I said, my this sorceress created so many problems that there's actually a rift now in the party. They're like she hates everybody. She thinks that everybody's trying to like conspire against her.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like put some distance away from her. But the other thing that she got with all those wishes was control of like most of the planet.
Oh.
And so,
Okay.
yeah, she is now not only just paranoid, she is royally paranoid. She's
Ew.
thinking people are out to take her kingdoms and all this, and so it's driving her to madness. And now there's a deity trying to say, "Hey, I'll make you a goddess if you help me become the ruler of the gods."
Ooh.
Spoilers from any of my players watching.
Yeah, you always got to put that in there because, like, I know my players will watch this and be like, "But you said it was Levicitus." It's pretend it's Levicitus. Yeah, sure, it's definitely. I've not been playing with the Book of Elder Evils. That's not something I've opened recently. No, but like bad guys, like that's another thing for writing that I think is great for inspiration because like I kind of hit a roadblock with prepping this campaign, and I'm like, I don't like the bad because in the beginning of the campaign there wasn't a bad guy, so I made a bad guy, and he's dead. And now the bad guy in the book, like he's about to be dead. And then the next bad guy, I don't really see it being realistic for them to fight yet because they're going to be level 7. So like you need to have like finding bad guys that you like and more importantly that the players don't like is another great way to get inspiration for writing.
Oh yeah, I've found that the most unassuming people are
Mm-hmm.
also the probably the worst
Oh, for sure.
person. Yeah, um, like I had a game where the party this is a completely different game. I had the party was like chasing down this mastermind, and they finally like got into this big showdown where the mastermind dropped one into a shark tank. It was like a spy game, right?
Oh, nice.
And they ended up shooting this guy and he fell into the shark tank. He's dead. They're like, oh, okay, cool. He's gone. The world is safe. And then, out of nowhere the secretary shows up, goes, boop. Yeah, no, see, I was the one running the whole thing. And they're like, oh.
Yeah, no, like twists like that, especially like don't do this to your players every time because eventually they're gonna catch
Yeah.
on to it. But like when you haven't, like I've not done a major plot twist in a long time running a campaign. It's all been pretty cut and dry. And then when I thought of this next one for Icewind Dale, I was like, that's actually really good. And I sent a message to the group chat this morning, and I was like, hey, like if we go past like the 15 sessions that we're supposed to have left in the book, are we like all okay with that? And they were like, yeah, totally. I'm like, awesome, we're doing this now. um,
And like even then, like since your guys are if your guys are watching,
yeah,
even if you're expecting there to be one, you never know when it's
you never know what it's going to be, and I most of you won't probably know like are going to expect when it's going to be because I think most of you are suspect of it being one thing. Like I think you all think the NPCs are out to get you. Meanwhile, it could be that, or it could not be that.
yeah. And like I know for me writing writing Breaking Neon, I actually put like a few almost mini bosses, I guess.
I love mini
Um,
bosses.
yeah, these guys are there. Like, if you're gonna fight them, it's going to be one hell of a fight.
Oh,
But it's
definitely.
sort of, but it's sort of a distraction from who's actually running
So
things.
I think the best part about fourth edition that we're not talking about, but the best part about fourth edition was Keep on the Shadowfell, which I think
Yes.
gave us the best like level 1 to 5 boss of all time in Calvin
Yeah.
Levile. Like that is he's the he's the epitome of what we want all mid-level bosses, low-level bosses to be.
Yeah. They that was like the one thing they actually did really well was the translation for Ravenloft
Yes.
and uh the actual boss like fights, the monsters. They did really well. It was just a really crap system.
Like the system, like once like we need to like have like spreadsheets, like we need to pull up like Excel for our combat and be
Yeah.
like, all right, and then we need to start doing trig. So I rolled over here, but then the hypotenuse of the enemy is over here, so then I need to
Yeah,
get
let me
somewhere
grab
in
my
between here
crafting
and here. Yeah,
calculator.
like once we started
Yep.
doing that in fourth edition, I was like, no, we're out, we're gonna go play something else. We'll come back to this when they fix it.
I think the one time I ran 4E, at one point one of the players goes, "All right, so by the position of the sun, I think I should be able to cast this at this time." I'm like, "Really? What?"
How do you know? Like that's not the
Yeah,
way that works at all. No.
yeah. I took one session. That's literally all it took me to play the 4E, and I was done.
But now we've got all these other cool systems. So like,
Yeah,
there's so much out
yeah.
there to offer RPG wise. Like,
I mean, it has its place.
it
It
does.
really did help. It really did help with the formation of 5e, because it actually got the players to say, "This is kind of what we want,"
Hmm.
and they provided that pretty well, I feel.
I agree. No, and I think the best thing that's come out of all of that is the fact that we now have community feedback that we can
Yes.
give over on D&D Beyond, where we can like they do an Unearthed Arcana and they're like, okay, how did we feel about this? And like you can be like, I thought this was great, and I thought this like was not great, and clearly they've gotten feedback like not everything is always going to be the way everybody wants, but like at
Yeah.
least the community is able to have a more direct say in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No. Yeah. No. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like aside from because we were talking about villains, the other thing that
Hmm.
really gets me writing is music. And
Yes.
I've actually based some of my villains just on some of the music that I listen to.
So what's like your go-to music for some of your bad
So
guys?
it really kind of depends on who it is that I'm writing for. So like I put my music to what it is I'm writing. If I'm listening to something that's going to be like super thematic battle and it's hardcore one-on-one, I'll probably listen to something by like Michael Salvatore, who's the
Hmm.
guy that wrote he's the guy one of the guys that wrote the music for Halo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I'll listen, like if I'm doing a large scale battle, like I did with my Battle of Alambrazia a couple sessions back in my personal game, I'm listening to Hans Zimmer, especially the Gladiator
Yes. The
soundtrack.
oh, so good.
Gladiators, oh God, it's one of my favorite movies. But now that I'm doing City of Mist, I've actually found that I'm listening to a lot of Yoko Kanno and the Seatbelts. Um, yeah, surprisingly enough, it really fits the theme because it's noir.
Yeah.
It's that sort of investigative sort of jazz feel, and I actually put a bar in there called Sweet Melancholy, and
Oh,
it's run
nice.
by the avatar. It's run by the embodiment of blues, and his name's Sweets.
That's fantastic. I think that is probably the best way to start wrapping stuff up here.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure if that doesn't have everybody excited for Cities of Mist, I don't know. I don't know what will. So, Alan, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody at the end here what it is that you do? And
Yeah, so I am a professional GM or a GM for hire, if you will, game master for hire. You can hire me to run your games, your tables. All you got to do is hit me up. We discuss how many players. If you're looking for a specific system, I know quite a few. I also teach people how to GM, teach people how to play basics, fundamentals. My games I do charge for, but teaching people I do for free. It's about the love of the game and making sure people are happy.
For sure. And I think, that's what we're all trying to do here. And I think, like with these connections that we're starting to make with the All Seeing Guy and KY5 Gaming and just getting up there, it's definitely, I think we're building a pretty cool indie community of
Yeah.
RPG and tabletop stuff that I can't wait to keep growing. And we're going to do more chats like this. So, again, if you're new to one of the new subscribers, thank you. I hope you liked it. I hope you come back because we're going to do more stuff like this. We are setting up a time to get Cities of Mist on the channel and to do a one-shot for that because the Chronicles of Darkness one was fantastic, and we need to do more stuff like this because it's so much fun to just play with other groups and other people and to just get different feels.
So a teaser for that one shot, I actually have the name for the episode, and I do it as like almost like a TV show episode. The teaser for that, the name of the place is, or the name of the session is called The Gardens of Arcadia.
Ooh, yes, so much yes. I need to put a lot of. There's so many ideas in my head right now for what I want to play. Like for the next, like we're looking at March. Like for the next month and a half before we get there, like my thoughts are just going to be like, oh my god, there's so many. And you've already been super inconsiderate and told me about your Doomslayer character, and that's the fact that you got to Doomslayer Pride did.
I love my Doomslayer guy. Too angry, can't die.
I'm like. Oh, maybe I'll do like Emperor Palpatine. Like that would be cool.
Totally do it.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. Which is good timing. But again, everybody, thank you for watching. If you have things that you want us to talk about on the next one, send us a message on Facebook because we'll definitely be doing this again. And until I see you all again, don't forget to have fun and roll some dice.